The aim of the Arthur W. Page Center at Penn State and of the Arthur W. Page Society is to help individuals become counselors to leadership. How can individuals best prepare themselves for that role?
There are two schools of thought in the answer to this question, and one of those schools is that, well, we're sort of born into the nurturing business. We're kind of whether or not you're going to be an effective counselor will be determined sort of at birth. The other is that you can learn it as you go along, and I'm very much in the latter school. I think a good word for counseling is coaching. We tend to, the term coaching, certainly in the United States, we tend to reserve only for people in athletic endeavors. But I think coaching is a good word for counseling. And I think we need to develop good coaches who are not only coaching executives, CEOs, CFOs, and other members of the C-suite, but also good at coaching people who report to them, people at entry and second level positions. I think that that's important. That there's lots of things we can study in terms of to do this better. One of the things that I'd like to see is a little bit better relationship between some of the schools of business and schools of management, and then some of the schools of communication, because I do think that you are going to be a much more effective counselor if you understand both the management marketing side from the business school, and if you understand the science beneath the art aspects of communication schools, plus other communication techniques that we teach. And I think it's helpful if going forward interviews of the nature that you and I are participating in now address this question, because we need to deal with it. I think historically sometimes, well, if you go back way historically, we used to hire. I mean, the main prerequisite for a job in public relations was that you worked as a journalist. That's not the case anymore. I mean, the main prerequisite to be the physician in the Wild West was that you once worked in a drugstore. And I don't know too many physicians today who have on their resumes that they used to work at a drugstore. So I think that the education and the training of people who aspire to be senior communications officers in corporations and other organizations should involve some education and development in those areas.
I think that you have to some extent answered this next question already, but I'd like to ask it discreetly again. What do you see as the status of the counseling role of public relations in the corporate world today? Is it growing in importance or diminishing?
Yeah, definitely growing. There's no question that it's growing. I don't see how you can practice public relations without involving counseling. One of the weird things about public relations is that we tend to call everybody who does anything even slightly related to public relations a public relations person. So the person promoting the circus is a public relations person, and then the person counseling the President of the United States on communication matters also would be referred to as a public relations person. We don't do that in law enforcement. We don't look out the window right now and see somebody writing a parking ticket and call that person a lawyer, even though that individual is performing a legal job. And we distinguish. We have, on the legal side, we have judges and we have attorneys, and we have prosecutors and defenders, and we break these categories down so much. Same thing within the other traditional professions. Certainly medicine, we could give all kinds of examples of that, and within divinity, the clergy, and so forth and so on. You'll have You'll have bishops and priests and deacons and all sorts of other types of titles. But in public relations, boy, I mean, anybody doing anything is classified as a public relations person. I don't think that way. I think that to be involved in public relations, you must be involved in that part of the practice that involves research and planning and communication and then evaluation at the end of it. So I would take all of these one-way communication people, individuals who are only involved in media relations, only involved in event planning and so forth and so on, and I would call them publicists, or I would call them press agents or something like that. I would strongly argue that counseling is a very integral part of public relations.